Hi, welcome back to Mama's Got a Brand New Bag. If you're new here, this podcast is where medicine meets lived experience. My name is Charlotte, and I'm your host. I'm a pediatric nurse practitioner, a self-proclaimed ostomy expert, and somebody who's lived with Crohn's disease for more years than I'd like to admit out loud. On this show, we talk about digestive health, chronic illness, and what life actually looks like when your digestive system decides to become complicated. Today's episode, we're going to go back to the basics. We are going to talk about the digestive system and how it works. We're going to talk about what happens when someone has inflammatory bowel disease, like Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis. If you've ever wondered why some people experience things like pain, diarrhea, urgency, bleeding, or fatigue, understanding the anatomy and physiology of the digestive tract can be really helpful. So today, we're going to take a virtual tour through the digestive tract. The digestive system is essentially a very long tube that runs from the mouth all the way to the anus. In adults, it's about 30 feet long. And while we often think of digestion as something that happens in the stomach, the reality is that every part of the digestive tract has a specific job to do. The major organs of the digestive tract include the mouth, esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine or colon, rectum, and anus. The digestive tract also gets help from the liver, gallbladder, and pancreas as food makes its way through. The GI tract is like a highly coordinated assembly line designed to break down food, absorb nutrients, and remove waste. When everything works as it should, it's actually an incredibly efficient system. Digestion starts the minute that food enters our mouth. When we chew food, we're doing two important things. First, we're mechanically breaking food into smaller pieces. Second, we're mixing those pieces with saliva that contains enzymes, particularly amylase, which starts breaking down carbohydrates. This mixture of chewed food and saliva forms what we call a bolus. When you swallow, that bolus travels down the esophagus. The esophagus is essentially a muscular transport tube. Food doesn't just fall into the stomach. Peristalsis, or rhythmic muscle contractions, push the food down the esophagus towards the stomach. At the bottom of the esophagus is a valve called the lower esophageal sphincter, which opens to allow food into the stomach and then closes to prevent acid from coming back up. The stomach acts like a muscular mixing chamber. It churns food together with stomach acid and digestive enzymes. The stomach produces hydrochloric acid, which serves several purposes: breaking down proteins, activating digestive enzymes, and killing bacteria that enters our system with our food. Food in the stomach is then turned into a semi-liquid mixture called chyme. As digestion continues, chyme is slowly released into the small intestine. The small intestine is where a majority of digestion and nutrient absorption occurs. Despite its name, it's actually very long, around 20 feet. It has three sections: the duodenum, the jejunum, and the ileum. In the duodenum, digestive juices from the pancreas and bile from the liver help to further break down fats, proteins, and carbohydrates. The lining of the small intestine is covered with tiny finger-like projections called villi and microvilli. These structures increase surface area, allowing nutrients to be absorbed into the bloodstream. This is where the body absorbs things like vitamins, minerals, amino acids, sugars, and fats. When diseases or trauma affect the small intestine, such as Crohn's disease, celiac disease, or surgical resections, nutrient absorption can be impaired, which is why some patients develop things like anemia, vitamin deficiencies, weight loss, or fatigue. After the small intestine, the remaining material enters the large intestine or colon. The colon has several key jobs as well: absorbing water and electrolytes, storing stool, and housing the gut microbiome. This microbiome is a collection of trillions of bacteria which play a major role in digestion, metabolism, and immune regulation. When the colon is healthy, stool gradually becomes more formed as water is reabsorbed and stored in the rectum. This causes the rectum to distend and send a signal to the brain that it's time to poop. But for me, one of the most fascinating things about the digestive system is that a huge portion of the immune system lives in the gut. In fact, the gut contains about 70% of the body's immune cells. This makes sense because the digestive tract is constantly exposed to bacteria, viruses, food proteins, and environmental substances. The immune system in the gut must walk a delicate line between tolerance and protection. It has to tolerate normal food and healthy bacteria while still defending against harmful organisms. When that immune balance breaks down, diseases can develop. While not the only disease that can develop, today I would like to focus on inflammatory bowel disease, or IBD, which includes the two major conditions of Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis. Both involve chronic inflammation of the digestive tract, but they affect different areas. Crohn's disease can occur anywhere from the mouth to the anus and can occur through all of the layers of the bowel wall lining. Ulcerative colitis affects the colon only, and inflammation occurs only in that superficial innermost lining of the colon. When the immune system becomes dysregulated, it begins attacking the lining of the GI tract. This leads to inflammation, ulceration, swelling, and damage to the tissue. Once you understand the anatomy, the symptoms of IBD start to make more sense. Diarrhea occurs when inflammation prevents the colon from absorbing water properly. The result is frequent loose stools. Abdominal pain can occur when inflammation causes swelling and irritation of the intestinal tissue. The bowel can also become narrowed or spasmodic, which can lead to cramping. When the rectum becomes inflamed, the body constantly feels the urge to poop, even when you don't have to. Inflammation can damage the delicate lining of the colon and start to bleed. And no one feels good about having blood in their stool. It's always scary. Inflammation throughout the body, combined with anemia or nutrient deficiencies, can lead to significant fatigue. In more advanced disease, the digestive tract itself can physically change. Crohn's disease can lead to strictures, narrowing of the intestine, fistulas, which are abnormal tunnels between organs, abscesses, which are pockets of pus from infection, and scar tissue. These changes are why some patients eventually require surgery, which for many people can dramatically improve their quality of life and sometimes be life-saving. One of the most empowering things for patients is understanding what's actually happening inside your body. When you understand the anatomy and the physiology, symptoms start to feel less mysterious. Instead of wondering, why is this happening? You can start to see the connection between the inflammation, the tissue injury, and the symptoms that your body is experiencing. The digestive system is an incredibly complex and beautifully designed system. Most of the time, we never think about it until it stops working the way that it should. For people living with inflammatory bowel disease, the digestive system becomes something that you think about every single day. But understanding how it works and what's happening when disease changes it can help patients advocate for themselves and make informed decisions about their care. If you found this episode helpful, consider sharing it with somebody who's newly diagnosed or experiencing undiagnosed GI symptoms, or simply just trying to understand digestive health better. And if there are topics you'd like us to explore further in next episodes, whether it's medications, surgery, ostomies, or the emotional side of chronic illness, send any questions you have my way, and I'll do my best to answer them. However you found this podcast and whatever convinced you to stay, I'm really glad you're here. Bye.